Hey everybody, my name is Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And we have another user-inspired edition. Our topic today was suggested by B.T. Eschner. So I thank you, B.T. Eschner, for your suggestion. And today we're going to talk about cable TV. That was a big advent in our life, a big change, in mine anyway. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, how I went through the whole cable TV thing, because it was a big thing to me. Maybe we'll see if y'all can relate to the way I viewed it and interacted with it and all that. And those of you who are too young to remember cable TV coming about, then it'll be informative. For those of you my age and older, it'll be nostalgic. So before cable TV, we had what was, just local TV broadcast by local channels, and the two rabbit ears picked it up, right? And they would just pick up the signal, and you had three local channels. That was it. And that's when the TV would go off at 11 o'clock at night or something. I forget the exact time, but at midnight. It may have varied depending on the location. Your local station would cut off at a certain time, and it would play the national anthem and display a patriotic picture, usually the flag or something like that. You didn't have a lot of choice, and it would play the episode or whatever, the movie or whatever, one time, and that was it. And so you had to be there and watch it when it was on, because you probably weren't going to get a second chance. There was a real sense of urgency to watching your shows back then. You had to be there at that time, the time it came on, and you had to watch it. And you had to take your bathroom breaks during the commercials. Everybody jump up and try to get to the bathroom first. Well, as soon as the commercial came on, you had to go get your snack or do whatever you're going to do during the commercials. You try to prepare before the show came on, but a lot of times you couldn't. As kids, you run in, you plop down, you holding it. You got to go to the bathroom during the first, 10 minutes of the show, and you're waiting for the commercial. Then you jump up and go. Yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff happened. And those were the pre-cable days. So when cable TV finally came along, the first time I was introduced to it, I was probably 12 years old, I think. And my dad got an apartment in Goldendale, Washington. So we were in a small town briefly there. We lived in town there for a few months. And we got cable TV. And that, I did a short on that one time. That was the first time I saw actual live boobies. That was Bo Derek in Tarzan. That Tarzan movie she did back then. That was on TV. That was on cable TV back then. And that was a big event for me back then at 12 years old. What cable TV changed was, number one, it wasn't local. It wasn't a local thing. It was more of a national thing, or maybe regional. I'm not sure, because there were different cable cable companies. So one big cable company might have offered cable to the entire southern region, Texas, Mississippi, Florida, us down here, and then another cable company might have offered it to another big region up in the northeast, and then the Midwest, and then the South, all that. But you had bigger regions. So that's where it went from really localized to a bigger audience, okay? And they would replay things over and over again. So if you missed Tarzan, you could go play and it would be back on in a few hours, because they would rotate. I don't know what their schedule was. Every week or two, they would change the rotation, but you'd end up watching the same movie like 8 times or something until new movies started coming on, and then you'd watch them. And so that was frustrating with it, because they didn't refresh stuff constantly like happens now. Now it's even the streaming companies now, they refresh their stuff pretty often, and you have a pretty good selection over things you want to see. But then also, they would offer like HBO, Showtime, Cinemax. They would offer free preview weekends. So those were like events. You would plan around those things. Hey, you want to go do something next week? No, HBO free preview weekend. I gotta, watch whatever movie or whatever. So you actually wanted to be home watching TV on the HBO free preview weekend or the Showtime. Which one? I forget which one came out last. I remember one of them when they came out, Cinemax or I remember one came out. It was brand new during that time. It might have been Cinemax. Because I think HBO and Showtime were the first two, if I remember correctly. If I'm incorrect on that, please correct me down in the comments. Or if you remember which one it is, please put it down in the comments. But yeah, cable TV changed a lot in our culture because then you could stay up later and watch TV. And the channels didn't go off like they used to because HBO would play around the clock, So on the weekends during school years, on the weekends we could stay up late as we wanted watching stuff that we weren't supposed to. So, on the weekdays we still had to go to school, go to sleep for school, but on the weekends before cable, there was no reason to. The TV went off anyway, so there was just no reason to. And even then, back in 80 or whatever, I think there were like 10 channels or something on cable. The cable that we got there in Goldendale, everybody might be different depending on where you lived. But the last time I got cable or satellite or whatever it was back in early 2000s, I think. I just use my internet now, my Wi-Fi. That's how I get my news and everything. I don't even have cable anymore. But the last time I got cable, I remember sitting there flicking through it, and there's like 150 channels. And I flicked through every one of them, and nothing interesting was on. I was like, this is a complete waste. It was just crap. But anyway, that evolved over time, and they added a lot of channels to it. A lot of them were crap and just useless. In the beginning, they only had like 10 channels, if memory serves. We didn't have that huge selection of channels like they did. Maybe they do now. I guess cable, some people still have cable. But they didn't have that big old selection. Now they've got NFL Sunday Ticket and all kinds of stuff, I guess. But my experience with cable throughout my life was mostly movies. I didn't actually watch like the HBO TV shows, really good TV shows that they had, The Sopranos and stuff. I didn't watch those until here recently. I don't know. I didn't watch TV when I was younger. I just didn't. And you'd have to wait, a week for the next episode and stuff. But now in this binge era where I can sit there and have a day off and watch Sopranos all day, okay, I'll do that. That's like watching a movie. I can watch as many episodes as I want in a row and then take a break. Go do something or whatever. So that's kind of changed my view on those drama series. Now that I don't have to wait a week for, because next week you might miss it. You might not be able to watch it. So I don't know. But back in the day, I didn't watch those drama series and stuff. So my cable experience was just movies. That's all I wanted cable for was movies. Wasn't worried about the weather. Wasn't worried about whatever. I just wanted to watch movies. And hell, kids nowadays don't even know what it's like to watch a movie on that square TV screen, because now they're all widescreens. Everything's widescreen now. But they would trim the movie. You'd be missing 2/3 of the movie to watch it on that perfectly square box. And at the time, I didn't realize. Or they had the black lines above and below it, so you could get the kind of the widescreen effect, but it'd be a real tiny strip of the movie. So at the time, I remember when I realized that they cut that off. the ends off to fit them in the thing. And I remember reading that, this movie has been edited to, for content and to fit this screen, but it never, I never connected the dots in my head as a kid that, the movie screen was wider than your TV screen, and they had to lop the ends off of it. So then you go see the same movie on a widescreen. Like, oh man, I didn't even know that was there. So that was pretty cool. But of course, nowadays everything's streamed. Everything's, you got your Netflix, your Disney Plus. After Netflix did so well, everybody started copying them. Now you've got streaming services just everywhere. And if you want to watch one series, you got to have this streaming service. And you want to watch this series, you got to have another streaming service. So end up with, $150 worth of $15 a month streaming fees. Back then, when cable was really in its prime, you could get some good movies, for a relatively decent price. And it was cool. It was cool. And little kids could get access to some more adult entertainment like Bo Derek and Tarzan. But it was good times. That was a real change in our culture and in my life when I was first introduced to cable. Went from the rabbit ears and the 3 channels to cable television. That was a real shift. And we changed our behavior according to that, to adapt to that. Like the HBO free preview weekends, we would change our behavior because of that. So that actually permeated into our culture, and we adapted to cable television in a lot of ways. Alrighty, I'll leave you there. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, you can do so by clicking on that thanks button down below. Or you can also buy me a cup of coffee, and I'll put the link to that down in the description. If you're interested in Gen X gear, we've got some cool stuff over there, and I'll put that link down in the description as well. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And if you have an idea for a future episode of Gen X Thinks, please contact me either through the comments or you can email me. The email's address is on the channel page. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's fun doing these user-inspired editions of Gen X Thinks. And thanks again to BT Escher for today's episode. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I will see you on the next one.